If you're asking yourself, how many pull-ups do I need for a muscle up? Or why can't I get over the bar? Here is the truth. Most people aren't failing because they don't know the technique. They're failing because they're too weak for the specific demands of the bar muscle up. And the fix is not random attempts. It's what you need right now. If you are at 8 to 10 reps of pull-ups, your training program should look different than someone who has already 12 to 15. In this video, I show you the exact steps from beginner to intermediate, plus a free training program that you can start today. And just so we're on the same page, a muscle up is a skill and power-based movement that combines three things: a powerful pull out of the bottom position, a fast transition around the bar, and a strong lockout in a straight bar dip on top. It trains your lats, biceps, forearms, rear delts, shoulders, triceps, pecs, serratus, and basically the whole shoulder complex. It's an exercise that tackles plenty of muscles, but it's not a good exercise in terms of hypertrophy. It's an amazing exercise for power and skill. That's why also higher frequency with a lower intensity might work a little bit better instead of grinding the exercises close to failure, because that will take away from our explosiveness. And some of you out there might need all the explosivity they can get. So before we start talking about the specific technique, we need to talk about prerequisites for the muscle up. And I usually split athletes into slow pullers or fast pullers. And if you want the full breakdown, I'm going to link it somewhere over here. Watch the full video if you want to know whether you are a slow or a fast puller, so you know exactly what kind of approach you need whenever you start training for your muscle up. For a strong baseline to start training the muscle up in a safe manner, what I've seen with working with many athletes across different ranges, so different types of body segment lengths, different genders, different weight categories, and so on. General guideline that I use in my coaching is about 12 to 15 reps of strict pull-ups. For some, it might be a little bit less. For some, it might be a little bit more. And a second guardrail that I use is a weighted pull-up with around roughly 50% of your body weight added onto the belt. And these two are usually a good starting point for someone to start training for the muscle up, because that ensures that we have a minimum base of strength already that will support the muscle up training. Now, that doesn't mean you can get a muscle up with less reps or less additional weight on the belt. Some people get their first muscle ups with 5 to 8 pull-ups. Others hit a high first probability rep at around 8 to 12 reps of pull-ups, especially if they can pull high. And that's the key. It's not only about how many reps of pull-ups you can do, it's how high can you pull, how fast you can accelerate out of the bottom, and how much control you have around the bar. Now, let's dissect each phase of the muscle up and categorize it into phases and look at each part individually so you know exactly what it requires to get nicely over the bar. So, phase 1, the pull, the strong pull out of the bottom. Phase 2, the transition. And 3, the lockout, the straight bar dip on top. Most people are strong enough for one phase, but they lack capabilities in the other phases, and that's what we're going to improve now. Alright, let's start with phase 1, which is the pull. The goal here isn't to pull to the bar and stop. The goal is to pull around the bar. That starts with a small and controlled swing. No giant kip here, please, because we want to stay as close as possible to the bar. From there, drive your elbows down and back into the ground, like you're trying to push them into the floor behind you. Stay relatively vertical under the bar and think about rising smoothly close to the bar. The best exercise here for that initial lift off is obviously the high pull or a modified muscle up. So basically a muscle up without transition. If you can't accelerate out of the bottom, you can't get anywhere near close to chest to bar height on top. And that's why you shouldn't spam muscle up attempts yet, because you need to get stronger first. Because learning a muscle up with a huge kick and trying to remove it later sucks. Then we've got phase 2, the transition. And this is where most people fail. The goal here is to stay close to the bar by shoveling the chest over it. And my favorite cue for this part of the movement is to think about throwing the head through an imaginary wall on top of the bar. Combining that cue with tensing the triceps early really helps us set up for the next phase, the press. And common issues during this phase is that people tend to transition too early, or they tend to drift too far away from the bar, or kind of pull too far away from the bar, and then there's too much distance, can't really get over the bar anymore. And then we've got phase 3, the most simplest one. Just finish strong with a strong, straight bar dip on top. And the cleaner, the stronger your top position and press will be, the better your subsequent reps of muscle ups will be. Now let's look at a few common problems, and probably one of the most common ones is that people can pull high but they can't really get over the bar. And this usually has to do with the initial timing. If we are pulling too far away from the bar, it will be very, very hard for us to get over and around the bar. Secondly, it might be that we are initiating the movement more through shoulder extension rather than elbow flexion. What the hell is this guy talking about? When I say shoulder extension, think about the movement of a lat pullover. When I say elbow flexion, think about the movement of bending your elbows, right? Let's look at both of these for a second. If I initiate the pull with the motion of a lat pullover, I'm going to increase the distance to the bar heavily. But if I initiate by bending the elbow, yeah, we're staying closer to the bar, right? And these are the two main reasons why people can't get over the bar despite pulling too high. And the second problem I come across quite frequently is that people tell me they can do about 12 to 15 pull-ups, but they still can't do a muscle up. And this is very common. This is highly dependent on which type of puller you are. And to find out if you are a slow puller or a fast puller, please check out one of my videos. I will attach it over here, and then start training for the right type of puller you are. You will see you will start making some real gains when it comes to muscle ups, because training will be adjusted to your needs. And if you're lacking explosive strength because you're a slow puller, then this is exactly what you need to get better at first, instead of trying to grind out a few ugly high pull-ups. And problem number 3, people tend to cheat too much. They tend to turn the muscle up into a knee kicking and hip kicking concert, which leads to you paying the price later on. If you always rely on a huge kick, then this is something you need to get rid of at a later point. And my recommendation would be to use the smallest swing possible, because that lets you stay close to the bar and relatively vertical as you initiate the movement. And if you can't do that yet, then your relative strength, so how strong you're in relation to your body weight, is just too low, and you need to get stronger first. And doing cheating reps here won't help you in the long run. So my recommendation, build strength first before you attempt a skill you're not ready yet. And problem number 4, also the reason why most people tend to join my coaching, is because of wrist, elbow and shoulder pain. If your shoulders, wrists and elbows start talking to you and they're not happy, the first thing I'd recommend is to reduce the volume, reduce the intensity a little bit, because the muscle up is a skill. That's nothing where we should grind. And what we gotta keep in mind is that tendons, ligaments, they tend to adapt at a different rate than muscles do, at a slower pace. So you gotta keep that in mind and be patient with the work that you're putting in. And huge spikes in workload or intensity throughout a single week or on a week-to-week basis can induce a lot of fatigue and stress to those structures that are not even ready yet to sustain that heavy impact. And yeah, so clean reps, low fatigue and gradual exposures definitely beat daily max attempts. So keep that in mind and going forward. That is true about any other skill. Another question that I get asked quite frequently is, how long will it take to get my first muscle up? How long it takes will depend on your starting point. If you already have strong prerequisites and you're training the movement 2 to 3 times per week, it might be weeks. If you're still building strength, it might be months. But the sequence is the same. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Please comment your pull-up numbers and your muscle-up numbers below in the comments. This will help me get some more data. And if you haven't done yet, please help me grow this channel by liking this video, subscribing to the channel and turn on the notifications. And if you need help with your own training, whether you're in pain, you want to learn your first muscle up, or you just need some guidance, then reach out for my one-on-one online coaching. If you want to know how I work, then subscribe to my newsletter. Everything is in the description down below. That's it for today. See you in the next one.